All right, so today I'm going to be doing a 12 by 12 inch alla prima oil painting cityscape of San Francisco. Okay, so I'm toning the panel with burnt sienna, and I've just scrubbed on some burnt sienna that's been thinned with odorless mineral spirits and then wiped it off with a paper towel just so that the panel will have a nice warm glow. And I am also using burnt sienna to do my sketch. I'm using a number 2 bristle flat just to map out the composition. And when I do a drawing of a complicated subject, I really do focus on breaking it down into simple shapes. So you've got the buildings to the right, buildings to the left, this shape of the street, the trees, and the sky. So that's what I'm looking for at this point. Also, the placement of the cars, the key, the cars that are in the foreground. Want to make sure that I've got those in the right place as well, so that the whole composition is more or less established before I come in with the darks. For the darks here, I'm using a mixture of ultramarine and burnt sienna, which gives you almost like a dark, it looks like black, but it's kind of like a dark blue-green. And it's a transparent, both of those are transparent colors. I like to come in with transparent darks. I will be reinforcing and adjusting these darks, but at this point, I'm just using a number 6 bristle brush to scrub in approximate colors. And I'm trying to, again, look for interesting value patterns and still maintaining the overall composition. So yeah, like I said, these colors that are being scrubbed in at this point are approximations. But I want to establish a feeling of light early on in this painting. And so at this point, I am trying to do that. That's part of the reason that I keep, that I tone the panel with the burnt sienna. It gives it a warm glow. So as you can see, I've got the feeling of light on the tops of those buildings. Another thing I'll point out is I did eliminate the building to the left that goes right off the top. I don't tend to like having, buildings that go up off the top of the painting. I feel like I like to have, the horizon or like see these distant buildings unobstructed so that you can see off into the distance. I don't like having a block on the right or the left, like I said, running off the top of the panel. So now I'm just coming in and trying to add some definition into the building shapes. Again, playing down the value shift just so that it works as a painting. I'm trying to get a nice balance between an accurate representation of the location, but then also making it work as, so that the abstract design is strong. I don't know if you can see, but about midway up the road or towards the end, there's a tunnel. And some purists, San Francisco purists, are like, oh, you didn't paint the tunnel. And I didn't just because it feels awkward. It breaks up the street. The feeling of the street going off into the distance. So I did eliminate that and just, kind of streamline the street going off in the distance. And I am, like I said, now I'm coming in this, now I'm using a number 2, and I am working a few little details with the number 2 flat and primarily working on those cars that are along the sides of the streets but continuing to come in and look for interesting shifts of color and value within the shapes that I've established here. And I'm keeping in mind that I want the headlights to pop. In some ways, I'm keying the whole painting to those headlights because what I'm after here is a convincing feeling of light, both with the artificial light of the headlights and then the natural light of the sun glowing on the top of the buildings. That's one of the things I love about dusk paintings is that combination of those different sources of light. And so again, just coming in with the bristle flat number 6, making sure that the values on the street and the cars are dark enough to make the lights pop, which it looks like I'm happy with that. They're not as bright as in the photograph, but that's okay. I don't want them to draw too much attention. All right, so I'm going to stop here, and Like I said, I was just coming in and just trying to look for delicate shifts of color and temperature in these areas here. There's a few areas that are sort of a problem, like I can see these shapes up here. Not crazy about that. So I might change those. What else? I did with this building here. This is a church that's right on Broadway here. This is Broadway in San Francisco. And this church is, a key landmark, but I didn't want it to stand out too much. So I lightened the value of that roof. So this way it still looks like Broadway, but it's not breaking up the composition. So the goal is to make it work as a painting and also represent the location. I might darken the value on these buildings here in the shadows, but I'm not sure. I'm just going to live with it for a while and see how I feel about it. These cars in the foreground had a lot more light on them. There was like a lot of reflection, but I chose to just simply state those cars so they didn't distract the eye to the edge of the panel, so that you're still looking down the street. Also, I think adding little bits of light down the street also leads your eye into the painting and creates a sense of depth. Cityscapes are definitely one of the most challenging subjects to paint, just because there's so much information and it can be really difficult to organize that information in a way that makes for a strong painting. And what I found, like I mentioned in the process, is to always remember breaking things down into simple, strong shapes. So, and then within those shapes, keeping the value range fairly narrow so you're not breaking up those shapes too much, so you keep that overall strong design. But like I said, it is a real challenge. The one thing I will say is I noticed that cityscapes do sell really well. I think people like to have paintings of the city that they live in or a city that they have lived in the past. So a lot of times the buyers are looking for different things than you would be as a painter. As painters, we want to make sure that the composition is good, that the paint application is interesting. But a lot of times the people who are looking to buy cityscapes, they want something that has an authentic feel of that city and of that place. Hope you enjoyed this little video. Let me know what you think in the comments. It is the beginning of the month. So big shout out of thanks to my Patreon supporters. It's the Patreon support that allows me to keep making these videos. So if you're interested in pitching in, there's a link down below. Other than that, stay creative, and I'll see you guys in the next video.